I think personally that this Jurgen Klopp era at Liverpool has developed and cultured a fan base that are unfortunately incredibly toxic. This is not the first time. This keeps happening now at Liverpool Football Club, and somehow this is the fan base that we've become. I personally feel ashamed. If your heart and your head is filled with this hate, then you walk alone because you do not walk with us. What is up, guys? It's James from Cop Logic, and today's video, as you'll see by the title, is about the Darwin Nunez situation that's going on right now. And this is mostly going to be a video about the fan base, the current state of the fan base, where I think we've ended up as a football club over these last few years. That's mainly what I want to talk about, but I can't talk about that without the context of what is happening with Darwin Nunez at the moment at Liverpool. So I'm going to start with the Darwin Nunez situation, which, as you probably all already know, after the game against Tottenham, the 4-2 win, Darwin was the first player down the tunnel, and later that night it was just on Instagram actually, later that night he deleted all of his pictures relating him to Liverpool in any way. But that's basically what happened. So something is wrong with Darwin Nunez, and it's been speculated online that it's to do with the amount of abuse that he's been receiving from fans online over his poor performances of late. So that's what we're gonna get into. What I actually want to talk about is these fans and these people online that are sending abuse to Darwin Nunez and any other player for that matter, but obviously there's a big focus on Darwin Nunez at the moment with everything that's going on. So before we get into that, let's just talk about Darwin Nunez for a second and what he's actually doing at Liverpool at the moment, what's going on. So Darwin's been at the club for 2 years now. His first year wasn't the best, but nobody's year was the best that year. It was a terrible year for Liverpool in general. We didn't even finish any European spots, whatever. There were definitely some underlying issues going on there. This is his second year, but you could argue really it's his first year to really kick on and get going. But regardless, this is his second year, so we're going to base everything on the fact he's been at the club for 2 years. His current stats in all competitions for the 23-24 season are 18 goals, 13 assists, so that's 31 goal involvements. So first of all, it's 13 assists. That's 1 assist behind Salah, and it's the second highest goal tally behind Salah as well. So at the club, he has the second highest goal involvements behind only Mo Salah, who is arguably one of the greatest players in the world. So we can't blame him for not being better than Mo Salah, right? So he's the second best player in terms of end product at Liverpool Football Club. That's a fact, really. You know, the stats go to show it. A lot of people, obviously, and a lot of the criticism that's been levied at him that we're going to get into, a lot of the abuse as well, is the fact that he misses a lot of chances, right? And it's fair to say that he has been missing a lot of chances. He takes far more shots than anyone else, and I think part of the fact that he is criticised so much is because his misses are highlighted more based on the fact he takes more shots. But the underlying numbers are actually not that bad. When you actually sit there and take a look at the underlying numbers, they're not bad. He's got the second best end product in the club behind Mo Salah. If you were a manager coming in, so like Arne Slot's going to come in after Jurgen Klopp, if you're looking at those stats, I think you're happy with that. I think you look at that and think, yeah, I can work with this person. I don't want to make this a this player versus that player, but one that I think I have to speak on is Luis Diaz, who seems undroppable at the moment, plays every game and has statistically the worst end product of all of our forwards at Liverpool at the moment. He's got the least goal involvement of all our forwards, and he's actually remarkably played the most minutes of all our forwards. And that includes Cody Gakpo, who's not had anywhere near as much time to play as Luis Diaz. It also includes Diogo Jota, who again had that big injury, so has not played as many minutes as Luis Diaz. Both of them somehow are ahead of him. Darwin far ahead of him. And I think, I'm not saying, oh, it's all Luis Diaz's fault, it's not Darwin's fault. What I'm saying is that I think the criticism being levied at Darwin Nunez is vastly unfair. I think it's highlighted by the fact he takes way more shots. So you see him miss a lot. You do see him miss a lot, and it can make you think about what could have been sometimes. That could have been a goal, this could have been a goal, and think where we could be. Sure, that's a fair assessment, and it's fair to criticise that. His finishing needs work. However, his numbers are not bad. If he wasn't scoring goals at all, you could sit there and say this guy just can't score. And that's accurate if you look at, for example, something like Timo Werner when he was in the Premier League. He was terrible. Lukaku suffered similarly as well. Now, they were fine abroad for whatever reason, but that's not the case with Darwin Nunez. Yes, his goal conversion isn't as good as it was at Benfica. However, he is still scoring goals. He is still posting numbers that you would say are good enough. And they are good enough for Liverpool Football Club. I keep seeing people saying he's not good enough for Liverpool Football Club, he needs to go, and all this rubbish. That is rubbish. I'm sorry, but that's rubbish. He is good enough for Liverpool Football Club. We're going to take a look at why in a second. But before that, a little experiment I wanted to do is to take a look at how many points Darwin Nunez has basically single-handedly won us this season. The reason I thought I'd do that is because after he did this, I seen a lot of the initial reaction from people was like, we don't need him anyway. Hopefully this is good news. He's going, he's leaving the club, whatever. And I seen people saying stuff like, he's the reason we haven't won the title this season. First of all, that's ludicrous because we shouldn't even be in a title race this season. We didn't even finish in the top 4 last season. We are in the top 4 this season and we've won a domestic cup. That is a phenomenal season for where the project is at the moment, where Jurgen Klopp's project is at the moment. It's a brilliant season. If you'd have been offered that at the start of this season, you'd have taken it 100%. Any Liverpool fan would have. We are not in a position yet as a project where we should be challenging for league titles. The fact we found ourselves there is miraculous. Now, on to Darwin Nunez. He scored the winner against Bournemouth, right? So there's 2 points because that would have been a draw. He scored the 99th minute against Nottingham Forest. So there's another 2 points because that would have been a draw. And he scored the 2 last-minute goals in injury time against Newcastle. That one is all 3 points. So there's 3 points. Now, they're basically all single-handedly down to his moments of brilliance in those games. And that's 7 points total. Currently, if Manchester City were to win all of their games in hand, which is 1. But if they win it and so they go on, you know, an unbeaten streak till the end of the season, we'd finish 7 points behind City. And without those 7 points that Darwin Nunez won us, we'd finish 14 points behind City. That ain't a title race anymore, guys. I don't know what to tell you. We wouldn't have been in a title race. Never mind, you know, how long we've been in it so far this season. That's down to players like Darwin Nunez. He has contributed to the success the club has had this season in a big way. And without him, we'd be far behind that. There's no guarantee that anyone else pops up and scores those last minute goals. And certainly if you think about the Newcastle game, no one was doing anything. Darwin comes off the bench, bang, bang, suddenly we've won the game. You know, he is a game changer. People say he's not a big game finisher, but you go and look at the teams he's played against in the Champions League, the goals he scored. He absolutely is. He's suffering from a confidence issue at the moment, and it's exacerbated by people abusing him online, which I'm going to get into in a second. But on the point of he's not good enough for Liverpool Football Club. All right, let's talk about that then, shall we? So I went and did a little bit of research on players at Liverpool Football Club, their stats in the Premier League over their first 2 debut seasons. I'm looking at, in particular, attacking players. Goals over the first 2 seasons, their debut season and their following season. At the top of that list is Mohamed Salah with 54 goals. Now here, basically, let me give you a breakdown of a couple of the players above Darwin Nunez at the moment. Mohamed Salah after 2 seasons had 54 goals. Fernando Torres after 2 seasons had 38 goals. Both of them absolutely world-class attacking players. And Mohamed Salah obviously had that record-breaking debut season that basically no one except Erling Haaland has followed, so he is definitely an outlier on 54 goals there. Diogo Jota, 24 goals, Sadio Mane, 22 goals, and Daniel Sturridge, 22 goals. Now, Darwin Nunez is currently on 20 goals after 2 seasons. That puts him 2 goals behind Sturridge, 2 goals behind Mane. He's still got games to play, and obviously he's been benched the last couple of games as well. I honestly, genuinely think the Tottenham game was made for him with the chaos that was going on at the back. If you'd have given him 90 minutes, I think he could have got two goals. I think he would be equal with Mane right now. I think he would be equal to Sturridge. He's still got time to do it though. He only needs 2 goals and there are still 2 games to play, so it's definitely a possibility, but that all relies on Jurgen Klopp actually playing him. Let's talk about the players that he's, you know, got a better record than. For example, Roberto Firmino was on 20 goals after 2 seasons. Peter Crouch was on 17 goals after 2 seasons. And here's the big one for me that I think, let this sink in, ladies and gentlemen, when you say that Darwin Nunez is not good enough for Liverpool Football Club. Luis Suarez was on 15 goals after 2 seasons. Currently, Darwin Nunez is outperforming Luis Suarez in his opening 2 seasons. And I think everyone would agree that Luis Suarez is good enough and was good enough for Liverpool Football Club. One of the best attacking players I've ever seen play live, had the privilege to ever see play live. So Darwin Nunez is posting the numbers. The numbers are fine. The issue is, the one number that's not fine, and I'll hold my hands up and agree with, is his shot conversion. But that should be a promising thing, because whilst it's annoying at the moment and we keep looking at these chances and thinking where we could have been if he'd have scored that, we could have won this game, whatever. Okay, this cup, whatever. Okay, we might even have had a chance at winning the league. Okay, but we're not there yet. We're not ready to be winning the league. The club as a whole has overperformed this season. That's a fact. And I don't know whether it's Liverpool fans don't want to hear that, but we have overperformed. We're not in a position anymore to challenge Manchester City. Arsenal are, and we're actually in a very similar position to where Arsenal were last season. The difference is that, of course, last season when Arsenal fell off at the end, which is exactly what we've done this season, we've unfortunately fell short and we've fallen off at the end. Arsenal knew they were taking Arteta into the new season. They strengthened in the summer and they went again. Unfortunately for us, we know Jurgen Klopp's going in the summer, and that's going to definitely set us back. But Darwin Nunez at Benfica, his conversion rate was in the top 93 percentile for all 5 European leagues. The guy's shot conversion was incredible. It was basically, and it's part of the reason why Jurgen Klopp would have wanted him. He scored 30 plus goals that season, but it was also a case of basically every time he got a shot, it was a goal. It kind of reminded me, I remember looking at the stats before he'd come to Liverpool, and it reminded me of the way Divock Origi, obviously Origi far less goals, but I felt like if you give Origi the ball in the box, he scores, you know what I mean? He was a player that would get a shot on target, and so it was always down to the keeper to try and save it. And that was Darwin Nunez at Benfica. The guy's shot conversion was insane, the number of goals was crazy, and obviously that's why Jurgen Klopp wanted him at the club. And it makes you think what has happened here at Liverpool. And I think there's a lot of factors at play. Not only can he not speak the language, so probably training sessions are hard for him and stuff like that, but you got to give him time to work on that. And I see people saying he's been here 2 years, he should be able to speak English. He definitely shouldn't, by the way. I visit Japan every year now, for a number of years now, for a long time, and I've been studying the language as well at the same time. And can I speak fluent Japanese? Absolutely not. Do I know enough to get by out there? Yes, but I know how hard it is to learn a language. Everyone learns at different rates, and there's absolutely no way, you know, sure, maybe you've seen players in the past come in and they pick it up straight away, whatever, but certainly you can't expect someone to just be fluent in English after 2 years. And I'm not just putting it down to that, by the way. I'm just saying that is going to exacerbate his difficulties at Liverpool at the moment, and he may not even have the people around him in that infrastructure to vent and to talk about any issues that he's facing. And then he goes obviously away and he gets all this abuse online. It's worth remembering he's only 24 years old. That is young. And a lot of strikers hit their prime around 28, 29. Mohamed Salah, for example, if you think about it, he's in his 30s now. When did we see the best Mo Salah? A couple of years ago, probably. It lines up right. The fact that Darwin's only 24 means he has got time to improve. He has got time to hit that prime. His numbers are already good enough. We've been over that. We know his numbers are good enough right now. So it should be exciting that all those chances he's missing could in future years be chances he converts if he can improve that finishing. And he's got the time to do it. And that brings me on to another point. I think the punditry is just as much to blame. I think people like Jamie Carragher are just as much to blame. It was only a couple of games ago, he was sat in the studio with Wayne Rooney and Daniel Sturridge, and he was saying stuff like, he's like, I think we've seen all we can see of Darwin Nunez. He's never going to be better than this. This is the player he's going to be. He's 24 years old. He's got time to adapt. He's got time to improve. And he was saying that you can't improve finishing. You can't learn finishing. And sat next to him is Wayne Rooney and Daniel Sturridge, two absolutely world-class talents, and they know far much more about being a striker, about finishing chances than Jamie Carragher. Both of them disagreed with him. Both of them said it's absolutely possible to develop finishing. You just got to drill it day in, day out, drill it. Maybe that's what he needs to do. Maybe they're going to talk to him about that, but I think a lot of it is also to do with the fact that he has been being abused online by fans, and that's where I want to come into now. You know, I think it is exacerbated by people like Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville online saying things that basically, I don't know what the agenda is against Darwin Nunez, but let me give you an example. In that Tottenham game, Mo Salah missed one of the easiest chances I've seen all season. The ball rolls past him across goal mouth. He just needs to tap it in, and he misses. He takes a swing at it and he misses. Now, nothing's been said about that. I haven't seen compilations of it. I haven't seen it being posted and going viral on TikTok. Gary Neville never mentioned it, but I can guarantee you this, if that was Darwin Nunez and he missed that chance, you'd have Gary Neville saying he has to score that. You absolutely have to score. You have Jamie Carragher there going, you know, this is the difference. This is the difference between a world-class striker, a good player, and a world-class player. Well, Mo Salah is a world-class player and he missed it. So explain that to me. I think personally that this Jurgen Klopp era at Liverpool has developed and cultured a fan base that are unfortunately incredibly toxic. I think a lot of them demand us to be the greatest team in the world, and that's really hard thing to maintain. You know, I remember when Jurgen announced he was leaving, and I do think that's got a little bit to do with this as well, but when Jurgen announced he was leaving, a lot of people, I think Jamie Carragher saying something like there will be kids there today that have never known anyone else. You know, all their life Jurgen Klopp's been the Liverpool manager. Those kind of people are part of the problem, and I'm not just saying it's just kids online that are abusing Darwin. I think obviously with the success, it brought a lot of new fans to the club that now just expect that level of success year in, year out. And whether you were fortunate or unfortunate enough, whatever way you want to look at it, to have been a fan of Liverpool before the Jurgen Klopp era, you know how bad we've been. So where we are right now is a blessing. We're in a top 4 position. We're going to have Champions League next football. We're going to have Champions League football next season. We've got one of the greatest squads of recent times. It might not be as good as the Mane, Firmino, Salah right now, but it's still developing. And that's another thing. We're still in the early stages of Jurgen Klopp's project, and he is leaving too soon, and now he's leaving for his own personal reasons, so you can't judge him for that. Whatever it is, wherever he wants to leave, that's fair enough, but he is leaving too early. I likened us to Arsenal just earlier and their season last season, and obviously how they've improved this season. I think Jurgen Klopp, this project, he's rebuilt a squad, he refreshed the entire midfield this season, and he needs really to stay on, and you'd expect maybe another 2 years, to be honest with you, 2 or 3 years. That's what you would expect right now, because this project's not finished and he is leaving partway through. And people might say like, oh, but he's leaving a good team for whoever comes next. I'm not necessarily sure that that is exactly how that works. You know, a lot of managers would want to come in and refresh themselves and build their own squad. And again, I'm not judging Jurgen, because if he's leaving for his own personal reasons, that's fair enough, but I do think he's leaving far too early, and I think we'll regress again next season. And it's time for a reality check for all these fans that are that entitled era that I'm talking about, that expect us to be challenging for the league title year after year. We're not going to challenge for the league title next year. There is absolutely no way. And the abuse that Darwin Nunez has been getting, which is unacceptable, by the way, it's unacceptable to abuse any players online. You can criticize their performances all you want, but you know what? If you're unhappy with a player, go down a pub with your mates and talk about it with them. Don't get online and directly message the players themselves, because this social media era destroys people's lives. And you might think that these players don't see this stuff. You might think, oh, they don't read what we say anyway, who cares? Well, I tell you what, there's a message in what Núñez has done, deleting all the Liverpool content from his Instagram. He does see it, he does read it, and it does affect him. And we don't know what mental state he's been put in over this. We don't know what he reads, what he doesn't, how much damage it's done and how much damage it hasn't. I'm pretty sure it was David Ornstein not that long ago who said that Liverpool were going to look at bringing in a mental health coach for Darwin Nunez. It's something that was done for Harry Kane at Tottenham, and I believe Lionel Messi did it as well at Barcelona. And, you know, there are definitely players that it's going to affect more than others. There might be players out there like Mo Salah that it's just water off a duck's back, it bounces off him, but we know Darwin Nunez is an emotional player. One of the things that worries me is it was only a few months ago we were seeing him running down the steps at Wembley injured, leaping over the advertising boards to celebrate with the team, because he was that passionate and that happy about the fact that we'd won the domestic cup. And now all of a sudden he's deleting every instance of anything to do with Liverpool Football Club from his Instagram. Something has gone wrong there. We should not be treating any of our players like this, unfortunately. And the reason why I wanted to talk about it today is because this is not the first time. This keeps happening now at Liverpool Football Club, and somehow this is the fan base that we've become. And I personally feel ashamed. You'll never walk alone is meant to be our motto, and it certainly doesn't feel like that anymore. I remember Gini Wijnaldum, when he left, there was a quote from Gini where he said something like, because he spoke directly on this after leaving the club, that the fans inside the ground are not the same as the fans online, and that anytime he was in the ground, those fans always supported him, but anytime Liverpool lost the game online, it was always his fault. So again, there's another player that did read what you said. It did affect him. I think the same happened with Naby Keita as well. Naby Keita was always a scapegoat. Whatever you might think of him as a player, he was always a scapegoat when we lost games. It was always his fault. Same thing happened with Gini Wijnaldum. The same thing is happening now with Darwin Nunez. The fact that we won that Tottenham game 4-2, Núñez only played 15 minutes and somehow became the talking point of it, is disgusting. He should not be the talking point of that game. We won it 4-2, for Christ's sake. I'll tell you what the big problem was in that game. It was taking Wataru Endo off. That's when everything fell apart. But that's not important right now. The point is, this abuse has to stop. I worry about Darwin Nunez and where he is at the moment, his emotional state, because I obviously Clearly, I don't want him to leave. I wouldn't be making this video if I did. I am happy with his numbers. I do think he's good enough to be a Liverpool player, and I do think he has room to improve, and if he can improve, he could be an unbelievable player. But I worry right now where his headspace is. Him deleting all that stuff off Instagram is definitely not a good look. I still don't really know how I feel about it, what it means, what kind of message he's trying to send, but you could see right now from his perspective and his point of view, the grass would look greener on the other side. You know, I could move to Spain. I could still, there's rumours that Barcelona are interested in him. I really don't think they could afford him, if I'm being honest. I don't actually think Liverpool would sell him because of the amount of money they spent on him, but Barcelona aside, there are clubs in Spain that play in the Champions League, Atletico Madrid, for example. Like, if he was to go to one of those clubs, you know, he speaks the language, it would be far more easier for him. The weather's nicer. He gets away from the abuse. You could see it right now. He's in a headspace where he's thinking the grass is greener on the other side, and maybe he is thinking about it. I don't know. I would hate to think that he pushes through a move, certainly if it's based on the back of the fact that he's just being abused by Liverpool fans. And I put Liverpool fans in quotations because you're not a fan if you're one of those people online. Do you know, if you don't like a player, Friday night, Saturday night, go to the pub with your mates, sit down, talk about football, discuss this player, that player, whatever, like people used to do. Don't go on social media and tell them directly. Let them get on with their life, let them get on with their jobs, let them focus on what they're doing. He's young, he's 24 years old. Everyone handles this kind of pressure differently. This is coming off the back of the fact that he's moved to a different country. He's got no infrastructure around him. He's a brand new father, near enough. You know, his kid's only young. He's dealing with parental responsibilities. He's dealing with the responsibility of shouldering such a high-profile position at one of the biggest clubs on the planet in Liverpool Football Club. And he's also now dealing with all this abuse and backlash every time we lose a game, even when he's basically had nothing to do with it. It wasn't that long ago, Jurgen Klopp was talking about this, only a few years ago, I think, after Gini Wijnaldum left. And I'm sure there was abuse thrown at Naby Keita as well. I feel, you know, that's in my head for some reason. But I remember Jurgen saying something like, if you have this hate in your heart and your head, you can walk alone because you don't walk with us. And those words are so poignant right now with what's going on with Darwin Nunez, and it's worth remembering. This fan base has become so toxic, and it's not all of the fans. And I keep seeing people saying, like, he's had all this support for 2 years. The fans chant his name inside the stadium all the time. What more can he expect? Well, yeah, the fans do chant his name in the stadium all the time, but let's not forget what Gini Wijnaldum said. The fans in the stadium are not the same as the fans online. And if he's going home and reading that stuff online and it's affecting his game, it's affecting his headspace, then we've got a real problem here as a fan base. And maybe him deleting all that stuff is part of this. I don't know. I don't know if the counselling started yet. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe he does need to get offline, but that's easier said than done for some people, especially for a younger generation as well. So who knows? But I just hope that the fans have not pushed him into a mental place where he wants to leave the club, because I think that's really sad. If a player wants to leave the club, a player wants to leave the club, but not for these reasons. You know, I've seen a bold fraud online say something along the lines of, if he doesn't want to be here, then off you pop. First of all, what a disgusting attitude to have when the reason he potentially doesn't want to be here is because he's being belittled, berated, and abused by fans online. The message should be to those fans that this is not acceptable at Liverpool Football Club. And if you are that kind of person, then off you pop. It's you that should leave this club, not the player. And that's really what I wanted to talk about today, and the message that I wanted to push across. My ultimate feelings are that Darwin Nunez is good enough for Liverpool Football Club. I personally think he can improve. You know, I do think there's room in there. He's only 24 years old. If he improves that finishing, if he gets his finishing back to a level it was at Benfica, the amount and volume of shots that he has, he could become an unbelievable player. You know, we don't know, but I think he certainly deserves another season under the new manager. And another thing as well, if you're one of these fans, time for a reality check. Arne Slot is not going to be Jurgen Klopp. And if we lose a few games next season, even if we fall off at the end, we've seen it before with Ange Postecoglou at Tottenham as an example. He started really well, he's fallen off towards the end. Do not start abusing Arne Slot either, because I tell you what, we can't go the way of United where we're sacking manager after manager after manager because you don't think it's good enough. We are not going to be Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool next season. We are not going to challenge for a title next season. We are not going to win the Champions League next season. And that's the reality of it. We are in the middle of a project. The manager is leaving. It's going to set the project back. And the project is essentially going to start again under Arne Slot. It could take us a few years to get back to a level where we feel ready to challenge for these major honours. And that is the reality that we're in. And that is the wake-up call that these self-entitled TikTok generation instant gratification fans need to accept, because Darwin Nunez and Mo Salah started this season exceptionally. The two of them had created a beautiful partnership, assisting each other, scoring goals. It's all been forgotten. It's all been forgotten because they're having a little bit of a dry spell towards the end of the season, and all of a sudden, everything's Darwin Nunez's fault. Mo Salah was getting it the other week as well. It's not exclusive to Darwin, but I do feel like it's heightened with Darwin. I do feel like he's scapegoated a lot of the time that we lose games. And ultimately, my message, because I know this video is going on now, it's dragging on, it's getting long, but my message is to those fans: if you are one of the people that was online abusing Darwin Nunez, if you're one of these people calling him a donkey, telling him that he's the reason we lost the game, telling him he's just a shit Andy Carroll or a shit Timo Werner, you are the problem, and 100% allow Jurgen Klopp's words to echo in your mind. If your heart and your head is filled with this hate, then you walk alone, because you do not walk with us.